Imagine walking onto a plane with a briefcase, ordering a bourbon, and then literally vanishing into a freezing storm at 10,000 feet, never to be seen again. This isn't a Hollywood movie script. It's the chilling reality of the man known as D.B. Cooper. In 1971, he pulled off the most impossible heist in history, outsmarted the entire FBI, and jumped into a pitch-black abyss with $200,000 strapped to his waist. No body was ever found, no parachute was recovered, just a clip-on tie, and a mystery that has haunted investigators for over 50 years. Was he a genius, or did he jump to his death? Honestly, what happened in those clouds is crazier than anything you've ever heard. And today, we're diving deep into the secrets the government doesn't want you to solve. But welcome to Truthful. If you're liking what you see, let me know in the comments. And now, let's dive into the story. You wouldn't believe how one man in a sharp black suit and dark sunglasses managed to pull off the most daring heist in American history, and then literally evaporated into the midnight sky, leaving the world's most powerful agencies chasing a ghost for over 50 years. Imagine it's November 24th, 1971, the day before Thanksgiving, a time of joy and family, and a man calling himself Dan Cooper casually walks up to the Northwest Orient Airlines counter in Portland. He pays $20 for a one-way ticket to Seattle, a short 45-minute hop, and boards flight 305 with nothing but a small attaché briefcase and a cold, mysterious aura that didn't raise a single red flag. Back then, airport security was practically non-existent. No metal detectors, no ID checks, no bag searches, which honestly feels kind of crazy and terrifying looking back now. But for Cooper, it was the perfect loophole. He takes his seat in 18C, the very last row of the Boeing 727, where he could see everyone, but no one could see him. He orders a bourbon and soda, lights a cigarette with total composure, and looks like just another businessman heading home for the holidays. But here is where things get interesting. Just after takeoff, as the engines are humming and the city lights of Portland fade below, he hands a small folded note to a young flight attendant named Florence Schaffner. She's used to businessmen flirting or giving her their phone numbers, so she just drops it in her purse without a second thought. But Cooper leans in, his eyes hidden behind those dark lenses, and whispers in a low, chillingly steady voice, "Miss, you better look at that note. I have a bomb." The air in the cabin suddenly feels heavy, like the oxygen just left the room, as she unfolds the paper to see the words, "I have a bomb in my briefcase. I will use it if necessary. I want you to sit next to me." When he cracks open the case, just enough for her to see 8 red cylinders connected by a nest of wires. The reality hits her like a ton of bricks. You've probably felt that sudden rush of fear before, but imagine being 10,000 feet in the air with a man who is perfectly calm, while holding your life and the lives of everyone on board in his hands. But here, as the thing that really trips people up and keeps investigators awake at night, Cooper wasn't some frantic, screaming amateur. He was a total pro, calm as ice, even as he laid out his demands for $200,000 in a negotiable American currency, and 4 specific parachutes. While the 35 other passengers on board were sipping their drinks, reading newspapers, and looking out the window, completely oblivious that they were part of a high-stakes hostage situation, the FBI was down on the ground in a total state of panic. It was a race against time as agents scrambled to gather the cash from Seattle First National Bank, making sure to record every single serial number and hunting down high-quality parachutes from a local skydiving school, because they did not know if he wanted to jump or just use them as leverage. The pilot, Captain William Scott, had to keep the plane circling in the gray, rainy clouds for 2 agonizing hours, telling the passengers there was a minor mechanical difficulty just to keep them from losing it. Can you imagine the tension in that cockpit? The pilots are sweating, communicating with the FBI in hushed tones, knowing there is a man with a bomb just a few feet away, who is casually checking his watch and sipping a second drink like he is waiting for a bus. Every minute felt like an hour. Finally, the plane lands in Seattle, the lights of the runway reflecting off the wet asphalt. In a tense exchange, Cooper gets his money and his parachutes, and in a surprising move of mercy, he lets all the passengers and some of the crew go. But the nightmare wasn't over. He orders the remaining crew to take off again, giving them very specific, highly technical instructions that suggest he knew exactly how a Boeing 727 worked. Fly towards Mexico City at the lowest possible speed. Keep the landing gear down. Set the wing flaps to 15 degrees. And this is the kicker. Keep the cabin unpressurized and stay below 10,000 feet. That was the last time any human soul ever saw Dan Cooper. As they flew into a brutal, freezing rainstorm over the rugged, pitch-black wilderness of Washington state, the crew was huddled in the cockpit, paralyzed by fear. Suddenly, they felt a massive change in air pressure, a thud that rocked the entire aircraft. A warning light flashed on the dashboard. The aft stairs, the ones located under the tail of the plane, had been lowered into the void. Cooper had stepped out into a 200-mile-per-hour wind, into a freezing storm, and into the pages of history. When the plane finally landed in Reno, Nevada, surrounded by a small army of police, snipers, and federal agents, they stormed the aircraft with guns drawn only to find an empty seat. The back door was swinging violently in the wind, and Cooper, along with his heavy bag of cash and 2 of the parachutes, had vanished into the freezing midnight darkness. The FBI launched Operation Norjack, the most massive and expensive manhunt in history, scouring 45 square miles of some of the thickest, most treacherous forest and mountain terrain on the planet. They used soldiers, helicopters, and even submarines to search the nearby lakes, but they didn't find a single scrap of his black suit, a piece of the white parachute, or even a broken branch. It was like he had disintegrated. Then, 9 years later, a young boy named Brian Ingram was digging in the sand at a riverbank called Tina Bar and found 3 rotting, rubber-banded bundles of $20 bills that matched the ransom serial numbers perfectly. But here is the mind-blowing part. The money was found miles away from the calculated jump zone, and experts say it appeared to have been buried or washed up years after the heist. Was Cooper a military genius who survived the impossible jump and came back to bury the money as a final forget you to the feds? Or did he die that night, his body consumed by the wild? Over 800 suspects were investigated over 5 decades, and despite the DNA on his tie and his cigarette butts, the case remains the only unsolved skyjacking in US history. Dan Cooper didn't just steal money. He stole the world's sense of logic, walking out of a moving plane and straight into a legend that still haunts the rainy skies of the Pacific Northwest today. Honestly, the D.B. Cooper case is one of those stories that just sticks with you, right? Like, how does a human being just disappear into thin air? If you guys found this mystery as insane as I did, do me a huge favor. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us keep these deep dives going. Also, share this with that one friend who thinks they could have survived that jump. I'd love to hear their theory in the comments. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Stay curious, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace!